Okay, we're going to resume chapter 22. But why does it feel like nothing good is ever going to happen to me? An hour later, something so incredibly bad happens to me that it makes me wish I'd never even believed anything good might happen. And it's all because I'm late to the school gate. I'm talking to Neva and Knuckles when I get there, 5 minutes late. After the bell rang, we got talking about the garden again, and Knuckles was saying that he'd love to do an interview with the Eden Echo if they asked. Knuckles said he used to feel bad talking about his dad, because when he said his dad was in prison, it made others treat him differently. Either they stopped being friends with him, or they felt sorry for him, so he kept quiet. But the garden made him feel better. It was as if his dad wasn't gone, as if he was right there in the garden, and everyone thought the garden was amazing. It made Knuckles feel special, and feel that his dad was special too. I didn't notice how slow we were walking, and at first I don't notice that Billy's not there at the gate waiting for me. But when it becomes obvious that his whole class has gone home, I begin to panic. I tell Neva and Knuckles to wait at the gate for Billy, while I run around the school, checking the classrooms and the toilets, checking the muddy patches. I can see the teacher sitting in the school assembly hall, and there's a man on the stage giving a talk. They can't see me press my face against the glass. They can't see I'm in a flap about Billy. Sweat blooms on my shirt, leaving grey flowers. "Billy hasn't come to the gate yet," shouts Neva as I run back towards her. "But he can't have gone far. I'll just text Mum and tell her I'm helping you look. And I'll be home soon." She starts punching the words into her mobile phone. "I'll help too," says Knuckles. "Billy'll turn up. He must be around here somewhere." No matter what they both say, there is a horrible feeling in my stomach that won't go away. Billy said goodbye this morning, and I didn't say a proper goodbye back. Did it mean something? At the time I didn't think. Dazed, I say. Maybe he's gone home already. Maybe I just missed him, and he thought he could walk by himself. That's where we go first. I fling open the flat door, and Neva and Knuckles follow me into the hallway. I shout Billy's name, but he's obviously not here, because I know he would come running. He always comes to me. In our bedroom there are paper cranes all over the floor, like the crumbs leading to the witch's house in Hansel and Gretel. Carefully I pick them up and put them in a large envelope, along with the ones I've made. I know I wasn't able to make 1,000 in the end, nowhere near. But for some reason I want all the paper cranes with me, because I'm hoping their magic will bring me my biggest wish of all, finding Billy. Billy has to come back, I tell myself. Neva stops and looks around, and says our living room is lovely and the lilies are pretty. I look at our living room again. Maybe it's not so bad after all, I think, before making my way down the hall and opening the front door. This time, Snoop, including 2 new honorary members, is on the mission of a lifetime, to find Billy Rumsey. This mission cannot fail. My first thought is he'll have gone back to our old house at Honeydown Hills. "Is that where you used to live?" asks Neva. I nod and say we moved recently, and perhaps Billy was taking Brian back to look at the old house. "Is Brian his friend? Maybe we could ring him first and ask," replies Neva. "Brian," I say, slamming the flat's front door behind us and running down the steps, "prefers snail mail." Before we all go to the bus stop, I want to try to speak to Kat. The last time we were talking, she seemed to have such sensible ideas about everything and made me feel calm inside, like she was throwing a tea towel over my flames. Plus, she seems to have the right answers, like a mum would. Maybe she's seen Billy, and I'm worrying about nothing. But the Crops and Bobbers door is locked, and there's a tiny notice in the window saying, "Back in 5 minutes." I haven't got 5 minutes. Eventually, the bus arrives, and we all jump on board and hurry towards the back. I set down the envelope of cranes and tell Neva and Knuckles how Billy was sad about us leaving our old home, and how Dad's girlfriend didn't come with us. I tell them how things have been all muddled up recently. I think Billy wanted it to be the same as it was before. I look at Neva. I mean, he wanted us to stay the same, but sometimes things change, even when you don't want them to. Even if you want to take a moment and stick it in a bottle and put the lid on it to save it. "You can't," whispers Neva. "But it doesn't stop Billy wanting us to go backwards," I reply, staring out the bus window. "He's only 7, and he doesn't understand." If the bus went backwards, though, says Knuckles, thinking, then we never get anywhere other than when we started. I think that journey sounds pants. Back at the beginning every time. I'd rather go someplace new. What if I had a time machine? Would you go back then? I blink. I would, says Neva. I'd want to change history so my sister lived. I never told you what happened, did I? She pauses. The words explode around me like bubbles in a fizzy drink. I'm a twin. It was me and my sister. Mum picked names for us. I was Neva and my sister was Mariposa. It's Spanish for butterfly. My mum has Spanish heritage. Only I was okay when I was born, but Mariposa wasn't. She was so tiny and had a problem with her heart, which meant that she didn't survive more than a few days. Mum never talked about it again. Then one day, years later, a butterfly landed on me, like I told you, and it was Mariposa. I looked it up and started drawing butterflies everywhere, but I kept the reason why a secret from Mum because I didn't want to upset her. Neva shrugs. I made the bracelets too because I wanted good things to happen, because the worst thing that could ever happen already had happened. But I don't think I can believe in butterflies. You don't have to believe in butterflies, says Neva. That's just what I believe, and it works for me. Maybe there's something else for you. I'm sorry your sister died. My mum died too. It's the first time I've told any of my new friends about my mum. The first time I've ever felt brave enough to do it. Next, the craziest thing happens that makes me wonder if Neva really does have a point about butterflies being souls. A red admiral butterfly flutters onto the bus window and stays there. Look! My sister has come to visit to say things will be okay. Neva is jumping up and down in excitement on her seat. It's Mariposa! I nod, and inside my head I'm saying, do you think your sister could go back and tell my mum to get in contact? Chapter 23. We stare at it for a moment before it flies away, but then it comes back again. Neva is up out of her seat, her hands pressed flat against the window now. The butterfly waits for a second before flying away and coming back again. It's telling us something, shouts Neva, her cornrows bouncing. It is! Honestly, it is! I don't understand butterfly, I reply, picking up the envelope of paper cranes. Well, I do, says Neva, and she grabs him by the arm. We need to follow that butterfly. In movies, they always say, follow that taxi, but never, follow that butterfly. And there's probably a good reason for that. Because when Neva rings the bell and we jump off the bus, the butterfly has done what butterflies do, flown off. Okay, what happens now? I ask as the bus trundles away down the road towards Honeydown Hills without us. My nails make crescent moons in my palms. Oh, says Neva, her head drooping, the butterfly has gone. I thought we could follow it and it would lead us to Billy. There's a volcano building inside my stomach as I storm down the street, shouting that I'm going to have to go back to the bus stop and catch another one now. I've lost valuable time thanks to Neva's butterfly. Undeterred, Neva and Knuckles follow me, and Neva is shaking her head, saying she can't believe the butterfly got it wrong. I was sure it was a sign. I thought it would take us straight to Billy, and we were going in the wrong direction on that bus. It was like it was trying to lead us somewhere. We're definitely going in the wrong direction now. We're going away from our old house. That's where he'll be. We walk along the pavement that passes candy-coloured houses. Every so often there's a little break, and you can see down towards the harbour where the sun is trying to squeeze itself through the clouds and throw golden pennies across the water. I shout back that Neva and Knuckles can go home now, and I'll just find Billy myself. I shout that the bracelet is stupid. They pretend they can't hear me and slope along behind like two shadows. This is totally useless. I'm going to have to stop and text Dad and tell him Billy is missing. But Dad's at Pearl's exhibition and things are going to really kick off when he gets this. I sit on the wall at the end of the row of houses and pull out my mobile to type in a message. Dad, I've lost. Knuckles and Eva sit on either side of me. At that point, a butterfly flutters past all three of us and then into one of the gardens behind. I turn to look at it. Eva turns to watch too as it settles on a bush and scolds the butterfly, saying that this isn't the time for eating. It's the time to find Billy. It's just a butterfly. I don't believe the universe cares about us enough to send help via butterflies. Otherwise we'd never lose the people we love in the first place. Eva looks at me, her eyes glittering. You're just saying that Because you're worried about Billy. Here, take your stupid bracelet. I spit, shoving the envelope of cranes under one armpit and tugging at the bracelet on my wrist. I knew it was a daft idea, wearing it. I'm sick of it. I wish I'd never put it on. Nothing amazing happened. Just loads of bad things. The elastic stretches between my fingers but doesn't snap. And then the bracelet springs back, catching the hairs on my arm and making my eyes water. I tell myself, I'm not crying, I'm not crying, I am crying. I'm crying inside. Because I want my mum. I want my dad. And most of all, I want my Billy back. Embarrassed, I plan to storm off to hide the tears that were already spilling down my cheeks. Only Neva storms off before me, rising from the wall and walking towards the path that leads to the harbour. I get all uppity that she's storming off before me and start to follow her. Where do you think you're going? Why should you care? You don't think my butterflies are important, so that means you can't think I am either. I thought you and I were similar, but we're not. I believe that we haven't lost our loved ones, and you believe we have. There is a fireball rising up in my chest, and I wipe away any lipids, water, sodium and potassium from my cheeks. Knuckles catches up and walks along beside me. After a moment he says, I saw you in reception on the first day of school, you know. You hugged your dad, and I wanted that for myself. I felt bad about it, but I couldn't help it either. After that, I could hardly look at you, because I thought you had everything I didn't have. I was jealous, because you had a dad who was there for you when mine wasn't. When I got home, I felt sad and I wanted to cry, and I remembered how Dad told me trees need water to grow strong and people need tears to do the same. Knuckles gives me a faint smile. I'm sorry, and what I'm trying to say is crying is okay. It will make you stronger. My dad says so. I sniff a bit, but manage a smile. When we catch her up, Neva is staring out across the harbour, which looks deserted except for one small person standing on his own on the harbour wall. Who's that? Asked Neva, lifting a hand to shield her eyes against the late afternoon sunlight. They're standing very close to the edge. I follow her gaze. It's hard to make the person out, but I know in my gut that it's Billy. I scream at Billy as I run all the way down the winding road towards the harbour. It's not a long way, but it's too far for him to hear me. Neva and Knuckles race after me, and no matter how much we shout, our voices seem to be carried away on the chariots of wind, hypnotised. Billy leans closer to the water, too close in fact. There's something in his hand, only I can't make it out. Billy's mouth seems to be moving. I propel myself forward as fast as my legs will go. Screaming, check. Arm waving, check. Panicking, check. Stressing, check. Wishing for stronger underpants, check. If there isn't a law about how far to lean over harbour walls, there should be. I watch in horror as the wall under Billy's feet seems to disappear, and Billy in a rainbow smear of clothes topples forward. There is a plop like a pebble breaking the surface of the water. Then there's the whoosh of wind in my hair as I run towards the edge of the harbour wall, screaming, but I'm still too far from him. I can't reach. Neva and Knuckles are running after me, shouting that we need help from grown-ups. We need some help from grown-ups, and we can't do anything stupid. As I look behind me, I see Neva on her mobile. That's the last thing I see. On land, anyway. I jump in after Billy. The envelope in my hand flies into the air and lands on the water beside me with a slap as I break the surface. Let me say this. Falling is a funny business. Hitting the water is not. Down I go, dropping like a stone. Down, down, into the darkness. Chapter 24. I feel small. Losing Billy feels big. The world is dark without him. I think about Billy's nightmare. I think I'm in it. Chapter 25. Like a pebble, I plunge down into the water. It feels like some unseen giant has found me and covered my head in a cold, black, wet blanket, and no matter how much I try to shake it free, it won't leave me. Worse still, I don't even know where I'm going, but whatever it is, I can't leave Billy behind when I get there. Not my Billy, not the baby who came home when Mum didn't, not Billy who, when he was only a few days old, clutched my finger, and he still does it now, waiting for me to squeeze back. Not Billy, who I didn't say goodbye to. Billy, My mouth is full of bubbles, and my voice doesn't carry anywhere. I'm light as a feather and heavy as a brick. My arms and legs jerk at odd angles as if I'm a puppet, controlled by a puppet master. The envelope I was carrying has spilled all of its paper cranes, and it's as though they're flying around me in the water. When I realise I'm sinking deeper, fear sweeps over me, but it's as if I'm fighting a monster I can't really see. The more I kick out, the less energy I have, and the monster is so big that it makes no difference how much I fight. He wins. Above me, everyone is doing everyday stuff, coming home from school or work, going to art exhibitions. They don't even know I'm here, and I want them to know I've slipped into another world, but they don't. They won't come. Dad won't come. I'm sucked deeper. I wish I was sitting in the armchair now. My mouth makes a swoosh sound as I try to scream, but more water gushes into my throat. Blindly, I push forward, searching for Billy in the blackness. As I propel myself with my arms, I suddenly feel as peaceful as a school at 5 o'clock on a Friday. Then I see someone. It's not Billy, though. It's Mum. She was here all along. I shake my head and tell myself, this is not happening. It's only my imagination. But I'm so happy I don't want it to stop. Mum smiles through the water, and I can see the gleam of sunlight on her teeth and her hair float behind like dark ribbons of seaweed. I reach out my hand, but it sags through the water without touching her. Mum, you were in the ocean all along. Why didn't you say? I think she's going to swim away from me, and I frantically battle to bring her back. She tells me she knows I've been worrying about Billy and Dad, and she's right. I can feel I'm crying. No one can see me. Mum tells me that Dad will sort it out in the end, and I tried to ask her why she can't help him to sort it. I can't. He has to do it himself. Why, I think. He doesn't know I'm here. Does Billy know? Billy knows. You know. I'm all around you. I'm in the air and in the raindrops. I'm in the rustle of the trees and the ocean. I'm in every living thing. You already know that. You can speak to me any time because I am everywhere. You don't need to say goodbye to me. You never did. Can you catch the air in your hand? I know you can't. Can you hold the ocean in your palm? No. Can you hold memories in your heart? I know that you can. And when I try to smile, Mum looks behind me. And as I spin around in the water, I see Billy. His eyes are closed, his face a pale moon, his hand floats towards me, ghostly white, and I desperately need to reach it, to give it a squeeze. But the more I flick and flap my body, the further apart we are. Mum, I do need to say goodbye. I really do. Why? You have to say goodbye. It feels like the story has no ending if you don't say goodbye. Maybe the story never should end, my son. When I try to ask Mum what she means, she's gone. I spin back again towards Billy, and then I see them together, Mum and Billy, Billy and Mum. Small bubbles of life float from her mouth to his, and his eyelids flutter like butterfly wings. Exploding like a shaken bottle of fizzy pop, I break the surface of the water, gasping, with Billy clenched under my arm. The sky is grey now, and as endless as forever as I stare into it. I can hear the wailing of seagulls. As I stare upwards, they circle overhead, and I think about how I might have stayed with Mum a little longer, how I should have said goodbye, but I blew it again. The goodbye list has been totally useless. A warm tear eases from my eye and joins the salt water of the sea, and you'd never know which was which. I pull Billy to where the water meets the sand, and Knuckles helps drag us up the beach. Billy's like a sodden sponge of ice, and he collapses on the sand with me joining him. Knuckles quickly takes off his blazer and puts it over us to keep us warm, but I already know that it's not going to help, because Billy's not breathing properly. Once a long time ago, Dad took us to a waxwork museum, and although they looked real, their skin had a funny colour. That's how Billy looks now. Knuckles and Neve are standing over us, both of them hardly able to move. I bend down to check if Billy's breathing, and I can't hear anything except my own breath, which is thundering. Heart massage. I know how to do it, although even after reading loads of medical books and watching it on TV, I can't move. Marvin never mentioned this in his medical manual. how your fear of losing someone can be so big you can't move your muscles. The seagulls are properly weeping above me now. I can't save Billy. I'm afraid I'll lose him. I know what it feels like to lose those you love. Inside my head I hear Mum saying she has just slipped around the corner. I'm not to be afraid. It feels as though Mum might be watching me now, urging me on. Without thinking, I lean down and place my hands on Billy's chest. It's cold. I retreat, my heart a galloping horse. Then I bend forward again, pushing down exactly as I saw it done on TV. Live, Billy, live, Billy. I try again. I feel a tiny movement beneath my hands, a twitching, like a goldfish out of water. Billy's breathing again. When I'm sure he's okay, I roll him onto his side to the recovery position, and I fall back onto the velvet sand. Above me, the clouds are shaped like teardrops. My fingers feel their way across the sand until they reach Billy's hand. I give it a squeeze. Billy's hand twitches slightly in mine, but he doesn't squeeze back. Neva crouches down beside us. She must have called an ambulance because I can hear its sirens and they're close now. Then I hear the paramedics talking and covering us in tin foil. I want to say we're like frozen turkeys going into the oven, but the words don't come out. Look after them, shouts Neva, as we're lifted into the ambulance. It's my best friend and his brother. We're taken to Eden General Hospital, and I won't let the doctors separate us, even though they want to. I'm not leaving Billy. They take away our wet clothes and put us in gowns, and we cling to each other, not even enough room between us to fit a slither of tissue paper. Billy, I whisper, thinking about what he said last night when he was pretending to be Brian. Is this all because you thought you should go away, so I could have a mummy? I don't want a mummy if it means losing you. Billy's voice is hoarse and dry. Nope. I went to the sea for Brian. Brian? I'm confused. I brought him to school with me because I wanted to show him around. Then he disappeared, but I found him again in the garden patch. When you weren't at the school gate, I was telling Brian the Armchair story, and he wanted to see the beautiful creature from it. Billy gives me a little smile. I only went to show him the surface of the ocean, but he jumped in, saying he was a diver, and then I lost him. So I was leaning over to see if I could find him again. I'm not as good a diver as Brian Beckett. I pull Billy tight to my body and say that I'm sorry about Brian diving into the sea like that, but he shouldn't lean over the water again because it's dangerous. There's a small knock at our door, and the doctor enters and says we're very lucky. There's nothing seriously wrong with either of us, and it's a good thing we had friends that helped us and called the ambulance so quickly. It was Neva and Knuckles who rang them, I explained to Billy. My mobile phone is still in the water somewhere, and I dropped the envelope with the cranes too. Since you had no identification on you, could you please give us your mother's number, says the doctor, preparing to write it down. We will contact her now so she can come and get you. She's dead, says Billy. The doctor said he's sorry to hear that, but Guardian's number will suffice. His nostrils flare a little and I can see the hairs inside his nose that filter germs. We've got Dad, I say, my voice tight like a stretched catapult. I give Doctor the number, and he disappears out the door before returning 5 minutes later. Apparently Dad didn't answer. He's probably still at Pearl's art exhibition. I tell the doctor. Maybe he's got his mobile phone switched off. I want Dad, whispers Billy. The doctor says he'll get a staff member to keep trying. In the meantime, he asks if I have any other relatives that could come and get us if we were discharged. But I say there isn't anyone. We're on our own. It was a mistake saying that. I know it the second the words spill from my lips. The doctor makes a grunting noise before leaving. Half an hour later, the doctor is back and fussing about how it's still impossible to contact our father on the number that I've given him. This time when he leaves, I tell Billy we've got to get out of here. When Billy asks me why, all wide-eyed and trusting, I tell him I imagine Dad is missing us. Billy seems satisfied with my answer. Trouble is, the real reason we need to do a runner is because I think the hospital staff are getting suspicious about why they can't get hold of anyone, and why no one is coming to get us. What if they contact the social services? I heard about something like this happening on the news once, only in that case the mum ran off and didn't come back for her kids. Social services came for them instead, and they were going to look after them. The doctor looks back in through the glass porthole in the door, smiles, and then moves on. Dad must still be at the art exhibition. Maybe Pearl is persuading Dad they're a perfect match, or maybe they're talking about what I thought I saw in the hallway the other night. I explained to Billy that we have to go on another Snoop secret mission, escaping the hospital without being seen. Billy says he doesn't have his balaclava, and I say it doesn't matter this time. Anyway, I don't have my sheep hat either,